Hello everyone, this is Jenna from McGuire, and today I have the great honor of taking over Kristina Werner's YouTube channel. She asked me to do a guest video, and I was very honored and excited to do so because Kristina is one of my favorite people in this whole wide world, and I'm so blessed to get to work with her and call her a friend. Now when I asked her what I should do for her YouTube channel, she said, how about something inky? And I decided to go very inky. And I also decided to do a shaker card because Kristina's only done one, and I thought it'd be fun to try to encourage her to do a few more. I actually have 3 cards that I'm going to put together in this video. There's a lot to share, a lot of tips, a lot of techniques, but I hope that you find some things that will inspire you. Keep in mind that I put a lot of techniques into these cards, and you could simplify them very easily. Okay, let's go ahead and jump in. I'm using these Simon Says Stamp stitched rectangle dies. I like them because they have the faux stitching on both sides of the cutting line. I'm going to use 2 different sizes from the set. The large one that you see here, this will be for my snowflake card. I'm just putting it onto some Neenah white cardstock with my magnetic platform underneath it so it stays put when I run it through my Big Shot machine. If you don't have the magnetic platform, you could also use a piece of tape to hold it in place as you run it through. And there you have the centerpiece and the negative space, both with the faux stitching around the edge. Now for the other 2 cards, I'm using a slightly smaller rectangle from the set, and I'm going to do the same and cut that from Neenah white cardstock. So then I end up with 3 rectangles, one slightly larger than the other 2. And now it's time to get inky. Now I know Kristina doesn't like to get her hands inky, but I sure love it because it's a sign to me that I had some time to play. So here is the trick with distress ink backgrounds. You do not need to spend a lot of time to get a nice blended background. What I do is I pick 2 extreme colors, like a blue and a pink distress ink, like I am showing here, and I just put kind of spots of it on my background using my mini ink blending tool. Now you can see that looks absolutely terrible right now. But the trick is to pick a color that's in between those other 2 and blend between them with that color. So I have Salty Ocean, which is blue, Picked Raspberry, which is pink, and then I'm going in and blending between the 2, overlapping quite a bit, with purple, which is the Seedless Preserves. Now with this ink blending tool, I usually start off the cardstock and work my way on so I don't get strict lines from the edge of the inking tool. But I'm telling you, it doesn't have to be perfect, and it's good to leave some areas a little bit white because then you get some variation. Let me show you another example. This time I'm using Pumice Stone and Salty Ocean, which is a gray and a bright blue. And again, you can see that's looking kind of bad right now, but with Distress Ink, just give it time and it'll all come together. So now I'm going in with a color that's kind of in between somewhat. It's like a navy blue called Chip Sapphire, and I will overlap the other colors and blend them. So the trick is to overlap quite a bit. Now we're also going to do some techniques on top of this, which will help with the blending also. For the last example, I'm using green and blue to start with, and then I'm blending it together with the teal. Now the reason I'm using Distress Inks is I love how they blend together so easily with this inking tool. And also we're going to add some water in a little bit, and Distress Inks react when they come in contact with water, so we get really cool effects. Kristina's done many videos showing this, and I love these inks just as much as she does. So now that I have my 3 inked backgrounds, I'm going to go ahead and do some fun reactions on the background. I have a full bottle of water over here, a mini mister, that I've put about half a teaspoon of that Perfect Pearl pigment powder in. I just put it right into the water and shook it up, and check out that pearly water that you get. So I squirted some onto my craft sheet, and I'm going to dip my brush in it, and I'm going to flick this onto my background. Now you could use plain straight up water here and really get cool effects, but by adding that Perfect Pearl into it, you get a little pearly shine. Now check it out. As that water absorbs into that inked background, that Distress Ink reacts with the water, and you get these cool spots that I think are just incredible, and it makes for a really neat kind of night sky background. This intensifies as it dries, and there you can see what those dots will look like now. And I just flicked it on there with a paintbrush. If you hold the paintbrush closer to the paper, you'll get bigger dots. If you hold it up higher, you'll get smaller dots. Now you could, again, use just water, and it will give the same cool effect, just without the pearly shine. While I am here, I wanted to show you a few other techniques that you could do to inked backgrounds to get the look of lots of texture. You don't have to do all of these on an inked background, but I wanted to show you some other things you could do. This is Hero Art's white spray. It's a very opaque white spray, but you could use any kind of white. You could even use white paint here if you wanted to. And I am just flicking some of this on the background. Again, if you hold it close to the paper, you get bigger drops. If you hold it up higher, you get tinier drops in most cases. So I just thought this would be fun to add some bright white to the background also. Now, one last thing I wanted to do, this is one of my favorite products ever. It's the Sukaneko Shimmer Spritz. Now, this is fantastic. You can get refill bottles also. It's a very faint shimmer. I spray this from about as high up as I can, a couple feet, and just put a light mist over the background, and I heat set it right away. Now, the great thing about this is you can put this on the finished card if you want to, and you get this shimmery shine. It's hard to see in the video, but it is just kind of twinkles, and it's very subtle. I love that product. Okay, so we're going to set that aside to dry. In the meantime, I need to cut some white fun foam to be slightly smaller than our die cut pieces that we've inked up here. So this is just good old-fashioned white fun foam that you used as a kid for crafts. I'm cutting it with my trimmer. It doesn't cut all the way through, so you just tear it the rest of the way. It really is easy to do. And I'm just cutting 3 pieces, and each of the pieces is going to be slightly smaller than the inked rectangles that we created. Now, I'm using this fun foam for my shaker cards. There are a variety of products you can use for shaker cards to get that dimension, but I wanted to show you this option today. So here you can see my 3 inked backgrounds with the 3 pieces of white fun foam cut slightly smaller than the backgrounds. It's now time to create our shaker card windows. I know a lot of people do circles and squares, so I thought it'd be fun to do some unique shapes. For the purple and pink background, I'm using this large Hero Art snowflake die. Really, you could use any die. I think it'd be fun to do words, all kinds of things. And the nice thing is you can use the snowflake, the actual die cut itself, for another card. But I'm going to use the negative space for my shaker card. Now I want to crank through these, so I'm die cutting both of these at once. I have a reindeer from W+9 and an ornament from Memory Box. And again, remember we have those die cuts that we can save for another card. Now this ornament one's a little bit unique. I also need a silver die cut of the ornament itself that I will put on top of my shaker window. I'm going to do that right now. This is just foil cardstock, and I'm going to set this aside so that we have it ready when our shakers are done. So now we need the shaker window. You could use scrap plastic, any kind of plastic from any packaging. I've actually used all mine up, so I'm using a Hero Arts acetate note card. I love these note cards. They're perfectly transparent and they're nice and thick. What I'm doing is tracing a shape onto my acetate that is bigger than the die cut window that we've created. You just need it bigger, you just need to cover it. You could cut a square and tape it on the back there, but I'm trying to conserve this acetate so I can get as many pieces of shaker window out of it as possible. Might as well not waste any of it. So here I have transparent windows that are cut bigger than all of my die cut windows. So that's ready to go. Next up, we have to create the foam shaker card piece. So we already cut it earlier. Now we just need to get the open shape for the window. So I just hold the foam piece on the back of our panel, and this is the way I do it. There are many ways to do it. I think this is the easiest. I'm just kind of tracing that window shape onto the foam. I'm just using a pen and putting marks at the outermost points so I know where to cut into the foam. So I am just cutting outside of my little pen marks. Very sloppy. Nobody will ever know because it'll be covered, but I think this is the easiest way to do it. You could also just die cut a large square, or you could die cut the snowflake shape itself. But I find sometimes if you run your foam through a die cut machine, it flattens it a little bit. You could double up the foam, but I think this is the easiest way to do it. So now I am adhering the window that we created, the transparent piece, onto the back of our shaker card window. And now it's time to add the foam piece to this. Now there are many ways you could add this on here, but I think it's easiest just to use a little liquid adhesive around the edges of that window that we've created. I like the Ranger Multi-Medium. You could use any adhesive here. You could use dry adhesive here if you wanted to also. I just like that this adhesive I can rub right up to the edges of the window so that none of my sequins kind of get tucked underneath this foam piece when we go to shake it. So I'm applying this liquid adhesive around all of the edges. I also then go ahead and put my favorite strong dry adhesive onto the back of the inked panel that we created also. I just want to make sure these stay together really well when we have it all finished. So now that we've got glue on both of these pieces, I'm just going to stick this on top. And we have this piece ready to create a shaker card to add our little bits inside. Now, I just wanted to show you another example just so you can see it in action one more time. I've put the foam piece behind this inked background for this card. I'm just tracing kind of the general shape of the reindeer onto the foam so I know where to cut. Then I use my scissors, this cut's really easy, to cut outside of that area. Again, there are many ways to do this. I just think this is the easiest and the quickest. Put some adhesive on. I have my transparent window behind the open reindeer window on the inked background, and now we have the foam behind that. and it's good to go. Now I'm going to set this and the other cards aside to dry, let that liquid adhesive dry for about 10 minutes. And now it's time to white heat emboss our greetings. I'm using a new stamp set from Clearly Besotted to do this, and I put some anti-static powder down first. Now I have to tell you, I should have done this at the beginning, before we added all the stuff behind our window, but I completely forgot, to be quite honest with you. But see, one of the great advantages of using a full foam piece behind our shaker window is we can do this. If I use just bits and pieces of foam tape back there, it would be all uneven and not go through the mail as nice. By the way, I wanted to mention, you can see here that I put this silver ornament on top of that shaker window on this card. Now for the snowflake, I decided to wrap a piece of vellum with the greeting white heat emboss. Just wrap it right over the window just for something a little bit different. And I just stamped and white heat embossed this on vellum. It's now time for the fun part, and that's adding all the fun stuff inside of our shaker cards. I'm going to take my anti-static tool and kind of rub it around the inside of my shaker window, just in case any adhesive is sticking out. But I don't think any will be, because I use that multi-medium, which is matte, and it dries not sticky, so I should be okay. But I like to do this just in case. I decided to put a few things inside of my shaker windows. I'm using these little beads that are new from Simon Says Stamp. I decided to go with white and silver only because I didn't want what was inside my shaker windows to be distracting from what's outside. But you could go with anything you want in here. Now I'll be honest, it's at this point that I'm really thankful that I did 3 of these at once. It doesn't take that much more time than doing one, so you might as well, and then you have cards on hand. So I put some silver and some white beads in there. I'm using some pretty Pink Posh silver confetti. They're just little silver circles, adding a few in there. And I'm also going to add some Simon Says Stamp Moonshine sequins. These are my favorite sequins because they're just iridescent, and this variety pack has a bunch of different sizes that are great for shaker cards. Now I don't put a lot inside my shaker cards, and I know Kristina doesn't like a lot in her shaker cards too. So I'm just putting a little bit in each of these. By the way, one of my favorite tips for doing shaker cards is to actually glue some of the sequins in place inside the shaker card so that some are always showing when the card is standing up. I decided to skip that here, but I've done videos where I show how to do that, and I think it makes a big difference with shaker cards. Okay, so now it's time to close up our shakers. This is very easy. You could just take this and stick it onto a card, but I like to just cut a white rectangle piece that is smaller than our shaker piece here and glue that to the back, just like we did with the foam. So I am just putting some liquid adhesive around the foam windows because I really want that to be tight so nothing gets stuck underneath it. Spreading it around with my fingers, and then I also, just to be secure, put a little bit of my favorite dry adhesive around the edges also. Again, you could use any adhesives you want here. You could use sheets of adhesive, like double-sided tape. Really, everybody does shaker cards different, and I encourage you to play around and see what works best for you. Okay, so now I have my rectangle white cardstock backings that I'm just going to glue on the back of all of our shakers so that they're ready to just pick up and put on the front of a note card. Now, before I put this on a card, I kind of put something heavy on it, a book, and I set it aside to dry for about 10 minutes. Now it's time to put those cards together now that they're dry, and I am going to actually take that negative space that we had from our die cuts earlier, remember that? And I'm going to glue that onto a top folding 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note card so that we get that faux stitching edge around the frame. Now I'm putting adhesive in the center, and we just pop our little shakers right in place on the front of a card. So you can see all the shaking going on. Remember I used soft colored little shaker bits so that didn't distract from the rest of the card, but you could put some fun color in there if you wanted to. Now for this one, again, I just glued the frame onto the card, popped the shaker window right in the center, and there we have it. I think this guy might be my favorite because you can see the shaker stuff in there very easily. I love that reindeer die from W+9. And then finally for the last one, this is the bigger rectangle, so there's only a little frame around the note card. Add this in, and I have my vellum greeting just wrapped around there, and it's ready to add to the card. There are many ways you could simplify this card if you wanted to. One big one would be to use just regular cardstock or pattern paper instead of the inked background. Now one last thing I needed to do on my ornament, I needed a string to kind of tie down, so I just am drawing it on with my Pilot silver pen. I love this silver pen. I can't draw like Kristina does, so I hope my bow isn't too pathetic here, but I thought it needed something to kind of hang from there. And there you have it, 3 very inky shaker cards ready for the holidays. Thank you so much for letting me take over Kristina's YouTube channel today. And Kristina, thanks so much for having me. I adore you, and I can't wait to see you again soon. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in the products I use, they're linked below in the YouTube description, or you can head over to Kristina's blog at kwernerdesign.com. Thanks again for having me.